President of the Tranel Financial Group right here in Libertyville down the street. Now, Roch has 19 years of industry experience as a certified financial planner. He ensures that your relationship with the Tranel Financial Group surpasses your expectations. That's where we get that from the chamber too. He also leads a growing team of financial advisors, making certain they provide you with the best financial strategies available to meet your goals and objectives. Roch is Money Concepts #1 financial planner worldwide since 1998 and #1 financial planner of the year since 1994. He conducts local seminars for adult education programs and also speaks to local groups like ours today. Roch has served in leadership capacities with many area groups and organizations and is a past chairman of the GLMV Chamber of Commerce. He is also the recipient of the Sam Walton Business Leader Award. So again, thank you so much, Roch, and look forward to the presentation.
Well, the world has changed, and it's never going to be the same. So in the fall of 2008, I gave a presentation to about 400 bankers, CPAs, other advisors, and I made the bold prediction right in the middle or the beginning of the economic downturn. And I obviously had no idea how deep the economic downturn was going to be. But I told these folks, I said, when you interact with your clients and bank customers and what have you, I said the world will never be the same. It'll never be the same from how we view retirement, to how we buy cars, to how we buy houses, just everything that we do. And if there's one message that I'd like to get across to everybody today as I talk about some concepts I'm going to share with you, is that I want you to think post-crisis. And we use that vernacular at the Tranel Financial Group because you can tell immediately when you're talking to somebody when they're a pre-crisis thinker, right? You're smiling because you know some of those people because they're longing for a day that's never going to happen again. The banking business is not going to be the same as it was pre-crisis. You're not going to be able to get a loan on your business or your mortgage for your house with no documentation. Would you agree that's probably not going to happen? Some of you have had that experience, I see. You're deeply connected to that answer. We buy cars differently, we buy houses differently, we interact with our businesses differently. And what I want you to do is if you're at a Chamber of Commerce function or you're interacting with other business professionals and you catch them with this pre-crisis thinking, make sure that you catch them. And you say the crisis is over, the world is not going to be the way it is today. And I'm going to share some insights that I have with you about how I think that we need to be successful and interact in this new world that we live in. Do you think that'll be helpful? Yeah. So I think that I just want to remind you of that. So here's some, if you want to take some notes, I have some great ideas that I'm going to share with you. And the first idea I'm going to share with you in this post-crisis environment is that cash is king. Cash is absolutely king. And cash is king for the reason that you think it is. You need to have an emergency fund in case there's an emergency. And does anybody think we're going to have an emergency going forward? You think we might have a terrorist attack or something of that nature coming up that you want to have an emergency fund? Well, I'm a certified financial planner, and through my training we were taught to have 3 to 6 months living expenses in cash, in a savings, CD, treasury, something of that nature that you'd have in the bank that was safe, secure, that you could get at immediately. So cash is king because we want to have that emergency fund to take advantage of something that possibly might be good out there that we want to buy, but probably because something bad has happened to us. Maybe in our business, maybe in our personal life. The thing that you want to think about, the reason that cash is king and it's important going forward is because we're in this world that we're presented with problems that we've never seen before, and with cash, cash buys you time. Cash buys you time, and with this time you're able to make really good decisions about your future because you have to think through problems that didn't exist 3 or 4 years ago. So 4 or 5 years ago, if a problem came up, you could research it quickly and make some really quick decisions. Today, when a problem comes up, we've probably not been faced with it before. So if you have some cash, you can get together with your team, your group genius, and help think this through. And cash allows you to make a decision without having to rush through it and think through all the different solutions that you have. The other concept I want to share with you in the post-crisis environment is profit is not an option. Profit is not an option. So pre-crisis, if you went to your CPA or tax professional and you said, I have a $100,000 profit, your CPA would have worked with you to figure out what could you buy, what could you purchase, how could you organize your finances to do what? Minimize the profit, right? Maybe even operate at a loss. To operate at a loss, you don't have to pay any taxes. You can't operate today in the banking world trying to attract new employees with all the research that's done on companies, with trying to bring on a potential business partner, trying to lease a piece of equipment. You absolutely have to have a profit in business today. So the mantra before was minimize profits as much as possible, keep as much out of the IRS's hands. So the downside to this new thinking is making a profit, and profit is not an option, is you'll have to pay more money in income taxes. But when you go in front of your bank to try to expand to get to the next level, you'll show a profit. And what happens if you have a loan with a bank and you have 2 years of negative losses? What happens? You're put on a little special list, right? And they kind of watch you monthly or watch you a little bit more frequently, and then if you want to get more money, they can't lend money. They can't lend money to businesses, or it's more difficult. I shouldn't say they can't. It's more difficult to lend money to businesses that have had a negative cash flow for 2 years in a row. So how do you do this? How do you make sure that you have a profit every year? This is easy to say, but difficult to do. If you had to, if it was November, if you're a business owner, and it's November, December, and it looks like it's going to be real thin, I wouldn't take a salary for the last 2 months to ensure that you had a profit. That's how important I think having a profit is going forward. You're going to have to lower your expenses. You're going to have to live like a monk. Who wants to live like a monk? Nobody, but you're going to have to live like a monk, business-wise, personal-wise. That's the mantra going forward. You know, it's interesting. It used to be that we would, pre-crisis, we'd go to a party and brag about things that we would buy, a big screen TV or something. Not too long ago, my neighbor bought a big screen TV. And so no one, and he deserves it, he makes enough money to buy a big screen TV, but he didn't want anybody to know he bought a big screen TV, so he cut the box up into little squares and put it in his recycling bin. So none of us neighbors would know that he bought a big screen TV. So where before it was popular to buy a lot of crazy stuff, today it's what? It's not that popular. You don't want to be seen as the extravagant one. And then obviously the third thing I think you need to do to make sure that you have a profit is do whatever it takes to make sure that you've got new clients. So we're here at the Chamber of Commerce function. Elise has done a great job and her team is putting this together. Let's do this really quick. Make sure that everybody at your table has your business card. Can we just take a minute and exchange? Has everybody done that already? Do that if you would, please. Just take a moment and make sure everybody's got a business card at your table. One of the gentlemen that's a foremost thought leader on how to get referrals, we're talking about profitable business and a profit's not an option, is Bob Berg. So write that down. If you want to, just Google Bob Berg, B-U-R-G, Bob Berg. He's got some material called Endless Referrals. Endless Referrals. He's out of Florida. And you just pull up his website. He's got some awesome books. He's got a CD program called Endless Referrals. And he'll tell you what to do with that business card to keep that going for you. So profits are not an option. And then let me talk about lending a little bit. I'm a certified financial planner. I'm not a banker. But the rules of lending, the rules of banking have changed. And most people in this room aren't going to like them. Now that doesn't mean you shouldn't like your banker. I think banks and the local community banks are doing an awesome job. Thank you. How many bankers do we have in the room? We have 1, 2, 3. Elena, raise your hand. 4. You're a banker? So we have 5 or 6 bankers in this room, and would you bankers agree with me that the lending environment has changed over the last 2 or 3 years? Is that fair to say? Very much. And the lenders and the bankers get a lot of heat for being the middle person when really it's probably not your fault, right? The rules have changed for lending, the regulation has changed, foreclosures has changed. I think banks, prior to the crisis, if they had a contract with somebody for a loan and somebody foreclosed, they knew the rules for how to get that property back, right? Now they don't know what foreclosure is going to be. They don't know what that contract means. They don't know if there's going to be a moratorium, so to speak, on lending. So I think what you need to do is think of yourself as a business, as your own bank. So we talked about, we have this revenue stream that's coming in. We need to set some of it aside for your business for emergency purposes. And I think emergency fund on the business side should be 6 months, on the personal side should be 8 to 12 months. And then you should build a fund that you can tap into yourself without having to go to the bank, or if you can't borrow money from the bank, that you have this own pot of money that you can borrow from yourself when things are a little bit difficult. Okay? The fifth thing I'd like to share with you is that the future is going to be really expensive. The future is going to be really, really expensive. We have a national debt. Anybody know how much our national debt is? $14 trillion. $14 trillion. That's a lot of money. So I, for the last 10 years, have been telling people that income taxes in Illinois are going to go up. I said we've made more promises and we are spending more than what's coming in, and politicians view increased taxes as a way to make up that gap. When we run financial plans at the Tranel Financial Group for long-term retirement planning, we've been running 5% as the tax rate for Illinois for a long time, knowing that they would eventually go up. Right now in Illinois, you're not taxed on a pension plan or distribution from an IRA. My prediction here today is eventually, as a retiree in Illinois, you'll be taxed on your distribution of an IRA or your pension, if you're from Abbott or what have you. It's naturally going to be the next source of revenue that's going to come. We have a utility tax in Libertyville, don't we? Right? That's another source of income that 5 years ago, if I said there was going to be utility tax, you'd say, what is that? That's actually unheard of. So taxes are going to go up federally, locally, on the state level. With our national debt at $14+ trillion, just think inflation's going to go high. You're going to see things just get very, very expensive. And then for those folks that are on a fixed pension or Social Security, those are promises that are unfunded. Meaning the state of Illinois, if you're a teacher, a policeman, or something of that nature, they said if you work here 30 years, we promise to pay you some percent, 70%, 75% of your final pay. They've made you a promise, right? They haven't been able to set the money aside to fulfill that promise. So at some time, there'll be some sort of reckoning for that. So things are going to go up in price, and for those folks on the fixed pensions and stuff, it's going to be a little bit more difficult to collect those pensions. So I want you to think independent. I want you to be an independent thinker in this post-crisis world that we're in. I want you to say, if my pension is unfunded or reduced, or they're not able to pay, or if the state of Illinois files bankruptcy, or whatever may possibly happen, I want you to think as an independent person or individual and say, if Social Security and my pension and all those things were gone, how would I make it? Obviously it would be best if you didn't have a mortgage. Obviously it would be best if you paid cash for your cars and paid your credit cards off every month. That puts you in a very flexible position. And you live very conservatively if you're already used to living in that lifestyle. Right? And then if you had this pool of money, this bucket of money, so if you made $50,000 a year, and you were to say, how much money, Roch, should I set aside in this retirement account, or retirement bucket of money, so when I'm not working, I can reach in there every month and pull some money out. Pull the interest or the dividends or whatever happens to be. Because if you don't have this bucket of money over here that you've been saving your entire working career, and if you were depending on your pension or Social Security, and those are reduced or minimized in some way, you're in tough luck. There is no other resource out there for you. So here's some rules of thumb. If you're 45 years old or younger, a good number to put aside in this retirement bucket would be 10% of your gross earnings. So if you make $50,000, put $5,000 away. If you're 45 or older, and you say, Roch, what's a good number just to think about? You'd want to set aside 15% of your gross income in this bucket for retirement. something that's going to pay interest and capital gains and dividends and things of that nature. 45 or younger at 10% is a good number. 45 and older, 15% is a good number to save for retirement. How many people in here know how much they're saving for retirement? Anybody know what percent? So some of you do. So it's a good idea to go tonight while this is fresh in your mind to just say, how much am I putting in my 401k and divide it by my salary? That'll tell you what percent that you're putting away. So let me just close with some comments about leadership. I want to talk a little bit about sales, and I want to talk about a forecast for 2011. So there's a tremendous lack of leadership in the world today. Would you agree with that? In our communities, in our local community, local government, state government, obviously in Illinois, we have real big issues with leadership here. The federal government, in our churches and in businesses, there's tremendous lack of leadership. And people are really, really thirsty for great leaders or good leaders. Actually, if you display any sort of leadership whatsoever, people will clamor to you. They're thirsty for it. They're attracted to it. So one of the things I'd encourage you to do is, there's 5 areas that I think if you became good leaders in, you would attract good people to work with you. You would attract really strong clients and prospects to be around you. First of all, so there's 5 I'm going to give you. So write down leadership, and there's 5 areas of leadership. If you become strong in any one of these categories, or all of them, you'll attract this aura about yourself that people will just want to be around you. First of all, you've got to be a good leader of yourself. You've got to be a good leader of yourself. That means getting out of bed early in the morning, exercising, take care of yourself, get to work on time, get to work on time with the right attitude, help those other people at work that need help, non-complaining, just being a really good leader. Just being a good leader of yourself. Hold yourself accountable. Are you saving 10% or 15% of retirement? Are you maintaining and managing your debt? The other place I want you to be a good leader of is your family. Be a really strong leader of your family. If someone in your family says, who's the leader? I want them to say, me. I'm the leader of the family. I think too many times we're waiting for other people to step up, and I'm encouraging you today that you step up and you be the leader of your families. Right? And encourage your spouse to be the leader as well. The third place is at work. The third place I want you to be a strong leader at work. Stop waiting for other people to make things happen. Will you make things happen whether you get paid for them or not? Make things happen at work whether you get paid for them or not. Be a really good leader. Help other people out at work. You be the go-to person. You'll be acknowledged and recognized for it at some point. The fourth place I want you to is in your church. In your church. I want you to be a really good leader in your church. You cannot just go to church today, show up for an hour, and leave. The churches need really strong leadership. Whatever faith you happen to be in, churches need really strong leadership. You've got to be on a committee. You've got to help out wherever possible. And the fifth place is in your community. The local chamber of commerce, for the village, and the Main Street. Everything in the community, I want you to be a really strong leader. Because for those of us that are strong leaders, we are begging for people to sign up for these committees and to help out, and it shouldn't be that way. It really shouldn't be that way. People should be volunteering to be connected to the community, to be involved in the Chamber of Commerce, to just be helping wherever they can possibly help out. So if you're a good leader in all those places, people will just want to be around you. You'll be attracting really good prospects, really good customers, just really good people to be around. You'll have better friends. You'll have upgraded your friends and your communication, your contacts. I think that'll be powerful. Let me go to sales if I can. Let me go to sales. So pre-crisis, when I would talk to people, they would tell me that they were really good fishermen. They were really good salesmen. Roch, I'm really good in sales. I'm making $250,000 a year in sales. And you know what was happening? The fish were jumping in the boat. The fish were jumping in the boat, right? You've seen those pictures on YouTube where a guy's just going down the river and the fish are just jumping in the boat. He's got a pole in the water, but the fish are literally jumping in the boat. And they're saying, I'm such a good salesman. And then the crisis of 2008 happened, and guess what? There's no more fish jumping in any boats in any industry, and it probably won't be that way for a long, long time. So we have to become really, really good salespeople. We actually have to go back and dust off those books and DVDs and CDs about how to be a good salesperson. We have to go and research the internet. and think, who are the good thought leaders today on sales and how do people buy today? Doesn't that make sense? Because the world is changing. There's no more fish going to jump in any more boats. And you have to be really, really comfortable with saying, I'm a good salesperson, and I understand my company, I understand how my prospects and how my clients buy and get connected to my company. I think if you can do that, and just vision that there's no more fish jumping in any boats anymore, you have to become a really good salesperson. I'll share 3 real quick examples with you. So people in sales try to get in touch with me because of my influence and connections. And there was one salesperson who was trying to get in touch with me and couldn't get past Lorraine, our secretary, right? Wouldn't you agree? I think Bob was talking, where's Bob at? Bob was talking about one of the most difficult parts in his job is not talking to the business owner, but actually getting past the secretary. Is that difficult for some people? So somebody was trying to connect with me at the Tranel Financial Group. They couldn't connect. I didn't even know they were trying to connect with me. So I get this box, and in this box is a jar. And there's a note or a message. I can tell there's this like message in this jar. So I take it out, and I can't tell who it's from. And so I'm trying to turn, it's like a jelly jar, you know, a preserved mason jar. Thank you. It's a mason jar. And I'm trying to get this off. I'm trying to get this off. And I thought, what the heck is going off? I should be able to get this lid off this jar. And so I'm trying and trying. I can't get it off. And by this time, I'm like, well, there's a note in this jar. I want to get it out. I can't get it. So I take it to the back of the office. I put it in this cardboard box. And I take a hammer and I smash the mason jar. And I pull out the note. And the note, I'm paraphrasing, something to the effect of, if it's this difficult to get a hold of your current vendor, I'm much easier to get a hold of, right? So it's just a unique way, so here I am telling that story, right, of how that person got a hold of me. Another way a salesman was trying to get a hold of me is they sent me a teddy bear, and the teddy bear says, it's been a bear to get a hold of you, please contact me, and with a nice message and stuff like that. And I thought, you know what, the guy tried that hard to get a hold of me, he deserved a half hour of my time. And then the most recent one, I just got this one yesterday, a guy sent me a package, and Lorraine, my receptionist, sent me a message, you got a huge box. It's in the back. It was almost like a present, a Christmas present or something. So I got a lot of work to do, but I got to figure out what this huge box is. I don't even know who sent it to me. And it's a folding chair. It's a nylon folding chair with the company's name on it. And it said, I'd like to sit down and have a meeting with you, and I won't even I'll bring my own seat. I won't even take your own seat. So I'm like telling this story here. So we have to be creative as salespeople as far as identifying who we want to meet with and how do we get in front of those people and then how do we make that message memorable. And I'm absolutely sure there's probably an internet website dedicated to these sorts of ideas that if we put on our thinking cap and said there's no more fish jumping in the boat, we've got to be really creative about identifying who we want as clients and going out and going after those folks that are out there. Those are pretty creative ideas, aren't they, for getting in touch with me? You'll remember those. I mean, you can just imagine, I'm out there hitting this mason jar. I know there's a message in there. I know I want to be like, I can't get it open. So there's nobody else around me, right? And I get the message, and then I'm just smiling when I get it. And of course, when you go through that much work for somebody to get, I owe them a half hour of time, right, to meet with them. And mason jars probably aren't that expensive, and I don't know how much it costs to ship it. So here's how we're successful. I'm going to close on these final remarks. Here's how we're successful going forward. You absolutely must have a business plan. If you don't own the business, and if you are just an individual for that business, you have to have your own personal financial plan. You cannot survive going forward without a plan. I would guess less than 10% of businesses have a business plan. You have to have a business plan. If you own a business in here, you have to have a business plan. If you're a salesperson working for a company, you've got to have your own personal business plan for that company. You've got to have a marketing plan, and your marketing plan's got to be totally different than your business plan. You've got to have a debt plan, so that's number 3. You've got to have a business plan, a marketing, and a debt plan. Say, well, I'm going to wait until I get out of debt before I have a debt plan. Right, and I'm going to wait until I'm totally skinny before I go see the doctor about losing some weight. It makes no sense. You want to have a debt plan? You got to have a leadership plan. Leaders today block off time on their calendar to focus on leadership. To become a really good leader, it just doesn't happen. You just don't show up at church and say, okay, I'm going to be on this committee today. you've got to focus on leadership. You've got to read a leadership book. You've got to turn off the radio and put in your iPod and turn on something. You know who's one of the great thought leaders? Is John Maxwell. John Maxwell is one of the great thought leaders on leadership. Why don't you write his name down? John Maxwell. If you Googled him, I believe he has 66 books that are out there. 66 books, some long, some short. He's one of the best that are out there. So here's what I would like to close on as an opportunity for you folks here. And I only want to do this for Chamber of Commerce members, so only if you're currently a member here. In your handout is an opportunity for you to put your name, address, and your email on there. On the top is your name, address, and email. Okay, so a lot of you already gave me your business cards, but this will help me put all this together. If you would like an email from me, every Monday we send out an email that talks about what the market did last week, where the stock market's at, where the Dow, the NASDAQ, the S&P, the bond market. If you'd like to get that email from me, fill this out, make sure your email, whatever email is appropriate. If it's not appropriate to send it to your work email, put your home. And I'll send those out to you, and I'll get that on our distribution list.
Do you have more of these? Yeah, well, there has.
Oh, yes, I have more of these, so I'll make sure that you have. So Natalie will make sure that you have a couple of extra of these to use it for your notes. Here's what I'd like to do. If there's anything I talked about today that was intriguing to you, if there's absolutely anything today I talked about that you say, you know what, it's not appropriate to ask Roch a question or talk to him right now, but I have a question on leadership, I have a question on debt, I have a question on sales, I have a question on anything I talked about today, I'm going to give you 15 minutes and 9 seconds of my time. 15 minutes and 9 seconds. You know why that is? Our address is 1509 North Milwaukee Avenue. It's going to help you remember where we're at. 1509 North Milwaukee Avenue. 15 minutes and 9 seconds. If you would like to have 15 minutes and 9 seconds with me, mark yes on the box, and Natalie will schedule a time for whatever time is appropriate, just to do it over the phone. It's just going to be a quick phone call. We'll get right down to business. You can ask me some questions. If you've got some questions about your investments, that's fine too, or anything that we talked about. So we are right on time for our conversation. Natalie will collect these while Lisa's doing her closing comments. Thank you very much for your time today. It was my pleasure.